Morning, everybody. So the sun is getting slowly but surely getting out. So we can also start our discussion about how to actually make system change happen in practice as well. So I, at the Observatory Public Sector Innovation, work as a lead of system thinking and anticipatory innovation. And I also want to say that I work within an organization of 3,500 people in one of the most rigid organizations in the world, which is governed by diplomatic rules and procedures and governments coming together behind very long tables and having very structured discussions. So this is not a kind of an easy place to have an innovation lab in. So I know if you're thinking about innovation is hard or making change is hard, so I just want to say that I also feel your pain. So I also feel your pain within my own organization, that you actually need to make these changes within these big organizations as well, and it's never easy. So you have to actually put a lot of effort into it. And today I want to actually concentrate on two different points. So how to get started in systemic change or transformation, and also how to keep it going. So you have a great system thinker within Finland as well. And one of the great system thinkers here has said that implementation is where ideas go to die. So you might start with a very good idea, but implementation is usually where it goes to die. So this is the kind of the guiding question as such. And around this implementation problem that we know that climate change is an issue. We know that poverty is an issue. We know that we have these complex issues around all these sustainable development goals. And yet somehow we keep on going from millennial goals to sustainable development goals, and we're really not, changing things on the ground. So we keep on talking about things, but a lot of things are not happening. And for me, this is associated with three problems. And I'm sure that there are hundreds of different other problems connected to this, but I have 20 minutes and I want to talk about three. So first of all, knowing and knowing. So it's one thing to actually know that something is a problem. The other side of the thing is to actually internalize it, to actually feel the urgency yourself. So we might know that mobility is an issue. Artificial intelligence will create new challenges. Social media is actually creating privacy issues for ourselves. We live in aging societies in most countries. But it doesn't mean that knowing these issues that you actually get to real change. So what we do in practice is to actually translate these problems or issues into the fact that this is not something you come in a gray November morning in HERÄÄMÖ to talk about, but this is your daily job. So this is actually what you have to do every single day. So you have to actually think about these issues as part of your job. So to create the connection of this is not something separate, something to look into a workshop, but this has to be connected to your job. So we have developed a model to actually talk about the purpose of innovation. So change has to be connected to the purpose and your job. So we have 4 different questions that can connect to any single civil servant or public sector employee, connected to how might we actually achieve the goals, what we want to achieve. How might we do what we do better? How might we adapt to the evolved situations on the ground? And how might we anticipate future upcoming possibilities and risks for our citizens? And these are core 4 questions that if you answer yes, at least once to those questions, your job is to do innovation. Your job is to be a change maker. And if you didn't answer yes to any of these, then my question is, what are you doing in the public sector? It's maybe time to go and develop a startup or make a business of your own and do something else, because this is your job. So this is what you need to do. And when we talk about these issues and problems, that this is actually what you need to do every single day. And you need to get into the business of knowing your tools of a trade. So connected to the questions that you're actually thinking about, there are different ways of going about it. And especially important here is to say that tools and methods are not objective. They're normative. They will push you towards certain types of solution. So if you work in an agile sort of way or you use human-centered design, you tend to look at problems from a certain perspective. If you look at lean, if you look at system thinking, horizon scanning, regulatory sandboxes, it actually frames your problems, the type of work you do. It actually directs you into different activities. So system thinking for us can be used in different formats, but system thinking is excellent at looking at issues and problems and framing them. So actually getting to the purpose at hand, getting to the sustainable development goals. And it's not a cheap methodology. It is not something that is extremely easy to do. It actually requires a lot of investment and time. So if you already know what needs to be done, go and do it. Don't invest in different types of methodologies. But if you are dealing with complex problems and purposes within the public sector, this is a good way to go. And translating into these questions into specific innovations, we here in the systems thinking field, we will actually talk about missions as well. About missions regarding water purity, regarding plastic-free oceans, regarding poverty, regarding social welfare. These are concrete purposes that governments and civil servants actually have to reach. Secondly, second problem. It is one thing to know what the issue is. It's another thing to do something about it. So knowing and doing do not always follow course. So in that sense that you might do a systems analysis about an issue, a welfare problem, and you actually frame the issue in a certain way. You understand all the interconnected factors that are connected to child issues or child policy issues that are connecting to children, for example. But it doesn't mean that you can do something about it. So system thinking is also produces these kind of very complex and complicated maps of everything is connected to everything. And then you look at the map and you are actually quite confused. What is going on? So this is a concrete example from my own work. So this is something that we did in my home country in Estonia beginning of this year, to look at what is holding them back from reaching the missions that they want to reach. So we did a systems analysis on the policy-making system of Estonia. And such a complex different factors emerge about what actually affects reaching those goals. So, and actually complexity paralysis also emerges. So in a sense that we can know that flat hierarchies and silos and overarching visions that are really abstract actually influence how you reach those missions. But what are we going to do about this? This is quite complicated. How are we going to actually start working in this field? We are doing this work in Slovenia on the procurement system. It's one of the most kind of legalistic systems in its entirety. But yet you see that actually the problems are behavioral, are cultural, are risk-taking, are capacity issues. And just changing the law doesn't help things. So how do you chance changing things of where the problems are actually interconnected to all the technology, capacity, and perception that need to at least change at the same time? So what we do in reality is to actually define a purpose, to find a new purpose for the system. So it is very difficult to change a system that is interconnected and has all of these different factors connected to it, to just say, change it. What you have to actually do is to define purposes about what this purpose has to actually deliver. So procurement systems are not made for just as is. They're usually operated that way. But the reality is that they're there to get you things in a more cost-efficient manner, in a timely manner, but they're also there to fulfill social, economical goals. It's an arm of the government, a very influential arm of the government, that actually helps you do innovation as well. So these are very different, complicated purposes that actually need to be framed to be actionable. And when you do a problem framing exercise connected to the system at hand, then you can start comparing also what needs to change within that complicated system to actually deliver that purpose. So you're not only paralyzed within the complexity of it all, you have an aim in mind. And you analyze your complexity based on that aim in mind. So one of the tools we use as well is a mission planning canvas to actually make the value proposition first for the public and the private sector, because you want all players to work together. And then to start analyzing all the different things that are important to make that system actually work and deliver that purpose at hand. So, and then you can also say that things become quite easy in terms of the motivation. So either you reach the purpose or you don't reach the purpose. You have to redefine continuously to do that. So we have different tools and methods to actually frame problems in different ways, and different problems actually need different tools to do problem laddering and actually understand the methods of what is going on within that problem itself. Climate change is not the same problem as poverty. They might be actually interconnected. One might affect the other in different ways. Procurement problem is definitely not the climate change problem. So you have to actually look at these problems in different ways as well. Sometimes you're dealing with puzzles. So in a sense that you have all the information and pieces, but you need different ways of putting them together. So you need an actual outside perspective, or a new person in the room, or a new capacity in the room to bring that in to look at the problem in a new and different way. So you have to think about what kind of a problem that I'm dealing with. You can also have mysteries. A lot of things within the public sector, even if experts do not want to admit it, are actually mysteries. In a sense that you see the outcome, and you see that there are things going into this problem, but what happens in the black box is a total mystery. It's a Bermuda triangle. Planes go over, sometimes they go down, sometimes they stay up, but the planes disappear. So it's a mystery in that sense. And quite a lot of issues within the public sector still, because of social behavior and interconnectedness of different behaviors, are still mysteries. In a sense that you can't know. So bringing, all the world's experts within that room is not going to help. You actually have to start doing, because you see the reaction, you see the outcome, but you don't know what is going on, but you can still do. You can still take action and see how it actually interacts with the system itself to see the outcomes. It doesn't mean that you have to be paralyzed. But analyzing those problems that are mysteries, messes, puzzles, or just, the usual kind of things on the kind of the low-hanging fruit, just fucking do it problems. Then you have to analyze your problems as well to do it in different ways. Third issue and third problem that I wanted to talk about is powerful feeling powerless. The agency. So we can get through our tools and methods into knowing, and really knowing in a sense that this is my job. Getting to the heart of it, this is my job, that I know this problem and I know that this is my job to do something about it. Secondly, that we get to the fact that we actually know what needs to be done about it. So even if we have these mysteries, problems at hand, we know that we need to start doing. And we have a problem ladder or a systems map or a systems dynamics analysis about what's going on. We know what the next step is. But yet, public sector, also in the private sector, this step doesn't get taken. Because people who are actually very powerful do not feel that they have agency to cross silos, to break their organizational barriers, to actually work in new ways to get to the heart of the problem itself. This might feel funny, but I have to say that in my work, 100%, in all of the countries I've been working with, I can interview secretary generals, director generals, all of these people who are one of the most powerful civil servants in the world, in that country, for example, most powerful civil servants within that country. And they say, well, I can't do anything about this, because this is not fully in my domain. It's actually that ministry's problem. And then you look like, well, you are one of the 12 most powerful people. If you can't do it, who can do it then? So what do you actually do about it? So you can have a systems map, you say that your overall silos don't work, your ministries are not structured in the way of the actual problem, because we have defined certain issues a certain way, but you still want to solve that problem in regardless. So how do you actually get to the fact that somebody needs to act, and somebody needs to act beyond the system, that, you know, beyond the Ministry of Welfare, the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of even Defense, to make these things happen? So where is that change point that you need to do? And a lot of the problems are, you know, if only put on the individual, that they depend on that individual. So individuals burn out, crash out, get bored, get frustrated, and they leave. So if you only leave it up to the individual, you have a very fragile strategy of actually making systems change. But yet you need to, in our work, so what we actually do as well, is that we try to develop different mentalities for leaders. So different types of leaders need different tools of help. But when we're really kind of working on the ground of making changes, then we start with the most motivated partners within the system, regardless of how powerful or powerless they are. So if you are motivated, you know, you can be in a faraway ministry of, you know, Natural Resources Canada, but you want to deal, you're the most motivated to deal with the talent question within the system, then that's fine with us. Because you have levers regardless of where you are in the system itself. So you just have to do the analysis within a different way. So you're not taking that we have to, you know, have to start from the point of, I have to have all of these ministries together of the simple mind in the same room, in a working party, and in a consensus about how to deal with this. It's like, no, the real world doesn't work like this. So we start with the most motivated party, and we start with the analysis to say, if you really are committed to delivering this change on the ground, who do we have to convince? How do we convince them? But we start acting already now. We ourselves will do a demonstration case. We will do a pilot. And we'll start acting now. But when we're doing this coalition buildings and going around, and sometimes the most influential player is, you know, really doesn't want to get involved, because some of these things are really challenging for these organizations. But you actually develop a system strategy of leadership, of motivation to actually do that. And what really works on very well on the ground is the human nature. And that is competition and jealousy. So, you know, if you truly want to have change, and these are the partners I'm looking for in countries as well, is that we can make anything happen, regardless if you have the right players in the room. Because part of the process is to get the right players in the room. Jealous, competitive, whatever the motivation is, but willing to act. So we developed these different roles for our system players as well, to actually work in total. Example of systems change on land, we also do these leadership developments to actually redefine their role and how they act within the organizations. So usually they are the managing crises or delivering results, and nobody wants to, you know, has the time to actually empower their staff or influence future agendas. So we have to actually kind of change the mindset on the ground to do that. So these were the kind of the three challenges that I fundamentally deal with. There are 120 others that potentially come because the problems that I deal with every day in my work are different. The projects that I deal with in my way are different. So it's always a moving target, in a sense that if you deal with complex problems, if you deal with wicked problems, the once you solve something, something else pumps up. In a sense that you keep 3 planes up in the Bermuda Triangle, 7 boats go down. You know, you influence something and new problems emerge. So it's always a kind of dynamic issue that you have to deal with. So it is not about knowing about system thinking methods, but it's more about practicing them. You can't actually know all the methodologies. There are 70 years of different tools and methods to draw upon. You actually have to know the problem that you're dealing with to choose the methods that you do with, and also keep in mind that problems are changeable in time. So it's not like economic policy or traditional economic policy where you have one solution on hand, and when it doesn't work on the ground, it's your fault. No, problems change over time. So you have to actually choose different policies and measures and methodologies once the problem moves, once the problem matures. You deal with it and new problems emerge as well. So different approaches with different thinking, 70 years of different methods to actually choose from. But do not love the method, love the problem. Different tactics to actually do that as well. And here I actually want to say, for the final point as well, is that do not only love the people you know, also include people you don't. So it's the fastest way to fail for us as well is to only invite the people you know about the problem. You have to have new perspectives to introduce transformative change within the public sector. I'll keep this, you will get all the slides as well about some examples about how we work. But fundamentally, I cannot, or my team cannot solve all the problems on the ground itself. So our role within the system is to not only address wicked problems or sustainable development goals, but actually develop throughout our different country partners the capacity to do it continuously on the ground themselves. So my goal, my purpose at hand is to become irrelevant and to, in the future, to find a new job. Thank you very much.